Howdy folks, Mike aka Mikeadelic here with another exciting video. I want to talk a little bit about Beau is Afraid. It's going to be a bit of a spoiler talk. It's not really a review, it's going to be kind of more an analysis I guess, or like a tangent about experimental film. Let's just get right into it. I'm going off the dome, so sorry if it's a little rambly. I watched Beau is Afraid on Saturday, it's currently Tuesday. I was going to make something talking about it. I was like really looking forward to seeing it because I had heard some people loved it, some people hated it, and I was like, oh, sounds like my kind of flick. And I watched it, and it kind of is. I love Joaquin Phoenix. If you haven't seen Inherent Vice, that's one of my favorite Joaquin Phoenix performances. He is absolutely mesmerizing as like someone who is constantly surprised. And so that's like a lot of people's almost like critique is like, oh, Joaquin Phoenix is going around being surprised. My friend I saw it with is like, it's 3 hours of Joaquin Phoenix being like, you know, which is not untrue. But what I wanted to talk about is not that this movie's terrible and not that this movie's fantastic. I understand there's polarizing opinions, but that's kind of not even what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk a little bit about media literacy and about understanding expressionistic and dream logic-y kind of films. One of my absolute favorite filmmakers of all time is David Lynch. If I have to answer what my favorite movie is, I will almost always say Mulholland Drive, because that film is able to tell a story with this kind of like new language of film, in my opinion. There's like your regular storytelling with your exposition and your characters and your 3-act structure and stuff, and then Mulholland Drive does it differently. It still hits this 3-act structure and like certain conventional elements of film structure, but it also breaks the rules kind of like Picasso and will have purposefully bad sound syncing in the beginning so you're aware that you're watching a movie. Things that will constantly show you the artifice of filmmaking and remind you, remember, this is a film, this isn't real life. And then you get sucked right back in, and it's kind of this ebb and flow of breaking the spell, having this awareness, and it just gives the film kind of a meta depth to it. And so when it comes to something like Beau is Afraid, I loved Hereditary and Midsommar, and I was really looking forward to what Ari Aster would be doing with supposedly a comedy. I didn't find this to be super funny. I definitely had some moments I was laughing at, but I was more thinking that Ari Aster must be sick in the head if he thinks this is funny. I don't know. Maybe that's rude to say, but 3 hours, if anything, the humor felt Andy Kaufman-esque in that making us sit through this 3-hour slog with this kind of anticlimactic ending. It's like, it's not like the movie's a slog. There's great elements in it. I almost feel like if you broke it into episodes or, you know, went in on the cutting, as much as I love those David Lynchy long awkward pauses, 3 hours is just too long, at least for old Mike. Sorry, this is all kind of tangential and reviewy. What I really want to talk about is how to understand the film. Whether or not you like it, there's a, in my opinion, not terribly complicated use of expressionistic cinema language that we can use to decode this film in a pretty basic meaning as far as like psychology and stuff goes. Let's start with the beginning of the film. And this is obviously going to be big spoilers if you haven't seen it. And I'll also talk some other movies that are old, so, but whatever. If you can call it a spoiler, but it's more so like the first viewing on a film you would like to watch more than one time, in my opinion. Some things can be spoiled, some things it'll only enhance your viewing experience. You're going to want to watch it multiple times anyways, in my opinion, but I'm just a film nerd like that. Anyways, Beau is Afraid starts with our boy Beau being born. Now, if we want to branch this into our kind of like dream logic interpretive lens, we're starting with this boy being born. But he's being born and he's instantly like this old man. We're not watching him literally age in front of our eyes. But if we want to decode this as a metaphor, I suppose we could see this as setting up this metaphor for the film, which is his life flashing before his eyes. If we look at the end, it's like a riff on that Defending Your Life movie with Albert Brooks being on trial in heaven sort of situation. That's where we're ending the film. So it's kind of, if that's not like the death judgment and this isn't Beau's sort of death trip, like if you don't know, when you die, your brain floods with DMT and you essentially have the craziest dream ever. And that's what death is on a sort of scientific level. In my opinion, Beau is Afraid is this sad man Beau going through his most anxiety-inducing death nightmare, maybe because he's never had a positive interaction with women due to his emotional castration from his mother, as we can infer from the giant penis monster in the attic if you've seen the film. A bit on the nose, you know, as good old Maggie from Deep Focus Lens pointed out. A bit heavy-handed with the metaphors. That's why it's like, I can't say I totally love this film because it does feel a bit obvious. The thing I love about something like Mulholland Drive is the subtext and the imagery and the themes and stuff. They're all there. They're so obvious, but they're not hidden hitting you over the head. You have to pay attention for them. Where Beau is Afraid, it feels like the themes are pretty obvious and it's 3 hours long. So as much as I appreciated the artistry, it does feel a bit self-indulgent and, dare I say, the P word, pretentious. Don't tell CJ the X. But if the word pretentiousness is like pretending, like it has this air of falsity, it's like you're pretending to know more than you do. Even I'm feeling pretentious, but I'm saying things that I'm pretty sure I know about. I'm not trying to stretch my knowledge beyond what I know. I'm trying to be authentic to myself. Beau is Afraid, it does feel authentic to how Ari Aster seems to be a super neurotic, deeply insecure, uncomfortable person, which I find relatable. But the way it's told, that 3 hour long expression, I don't think is the most authentic way to display that story. Let's talk about some other films that I really like and how they use similar conventions to tell stories in less obvious but more effective ways, in my opinion. One of them would be the Agnes Varda film Cleo de 5 to 7, I think is what it's called, or Cleo from 5 to 7 in English. It's a French New Wave film about this singer Cleo, and spoiler alert, it starts with her getting a tarot reading, and it follows her from 5 to 7, supposedly in real time. It's not actually 2 hours, but you kind of see what she's doing just 2 hours of this day while she's waiting on a test result to see if she has a terminal illness. And again, spoiler alert, her tarot card reading in the beginning of the film tells you exactly how things are going to play out, which is awesome. And I'm literally getting goosebumps thinking about it. And I had no idea when I first saw the film. I loved how it started with the tarot cards, and then I loved just watching it roll out. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, oh, it did start with the tarot cards. And what were those tarot cards? And it's like something death, and I'm like, it's all right there, you know? Beautiful film, super like minimalistic but super effective. Even Mulholland Drive is like sprawling and ambitious, but it doesn't get lost in the sauce with the metaphors. It's still very clear when it comes to the message, in my opinion. And David Lynch is very cagey about meaning and is so like follows his inner dream voice. And so that's where maybe I think Beau is Afraid fell apart a little. Maybe it was a little too rational, logical, maybe a little too much left brain in there and not enough right brain. Let the right brain, let the emotion guide it. We don't need logocentrism in dreams. Not that it was necessarily logical, but honestly, it's like, did he need to get to his mom's house? Like, the themes were a little repetitive, but there were things I liked. I just wonder if they could have played with the structure or the pacing in order to just make it more entertaining, in my opinion. Not that everything needs to be super entertaining, but I mean, do we really want to torture people with art? Is that what we're trying to do with the most expensive film that A24 has ever made? Don't we want to make it something that's fun to watch? That's what I would imagine, but whatever. Ari, you be your contrarian self or whatever. Okay, that's all I gotta say. Just a little Mulholland Drive, Cleo from 5 to 7 shout out. Beau is Afraid. It's fine. If you like experimental film and stuff like that, definitely check it out. If you like conventional storytelling, you may want to skip this one, or maybe check it out at home where you can watch it like in chunks. There's literally cuts to black where it's a perfect time to pause it and go pee, or, you know, treat it like the end of an episode, because then you're going to see the same themes displayed in an almost different short film, if you will. I really, that beginning, there's the tension, the anxiety is palpable. It's like that Uncut Gems sort of like high tension. That's what I'll close it with. Uncut Gems is, I think, a good example of something that was able to take this nervousness and feeling, and that's what, an hour and a half, 2 hours? That whole movie is sizzling with anxiety. Beau is Afraid, by the time I'm 2.5 hours in, by the time I see the penis monster, and I'm not the first person I've heard say this, by the time I see the penis monster, I'm a little, you know, it's like I would have maybe laughed harder if it hadn't been 2.5 hours and I was already like at my wit's end a little. I just wish it was a little shorter. I'm probably just repeating myself at this point. But yeah, watch Cleo from 5 to 7, watch Mulholland Drive. If you've never watched experimental films or expressionistic films and you'd like to learn more about how to watch them or like strategies to break them down or analyze them, it's kind of like analyzing your dreams. So it's actually kind of useful in my opinion. Maybe I'll talk more about that in the future. I'm kind of writing a script right now that has that in there. So I will be talking about it in one medium or another. Got a bit rambly, so I don't know if I said this, but basically the trick to understanding non-conventional cinema is to not look at things so literally, like this is a character, and then when you cut to something, this is the event that happens immediately after, but to look at things more symbolically. For example, in something like The Elephant Man, which is a David Lynch film that's even kind of a conventional David Lynch film, you have the Elephant Man, and then you have a candle blowing out, and then you're like, he dead, you know? Because the life is the candle, and it's been blown out. It's like you just have to think with a little bit of a creative mind and take the images that are presented to you and almost treat them like a tone poem. Like it's like you're creating a meaning with feeling rather than a meaning with explicit events, like an action movie where this person kidnaps this person, Liam Neeson's daughter's taken, and then he's got to get her back. And so now he's going to get her back. That's pretty conventional as far as storytelling. Obviously, most people don't watch non-conventional films, and most films can't be non-conventional films. But as someone who's watched a lot of films, I really like non-conventional films because they remind me of the potential of the medium and how liberating and excellent it can be when some people break the rules, but use that to still serve the story and to express themselves like in a remarkable way. Some of the best to do it are the French New Wave filmmakers like obviously Godard or Agnes Varda. There's a great spirit in the 90s, Wong Kar-wai, stuff like Chungking Express also has that very cool experimental feel. Go from the 90s has that non-conventional story structure, obviously Tarantino. But yeah, playing with narrative can be super fun, and the balance of when you go too far is definitely subjective. What to some people is too far, to me is just right. Beau is Afraid, I wouldn't even say it went too far. It's literally just like boring. It's not bad. If it was just a bit shorter, it would be like perfect. But that's just like my opinion, man. Bye. Those are my thoughts on Beau is Afraid. Thanks for watching. Make sure you stick around, click around. Recently released an instrumental little record here on YouTube and got some live videos, other reviews, music videos, all sorts of good stuff here on the Mycadelic channel. So make sure you check it out. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I do have a Patreon, but it's not like I use it or anybody's on there. But I would really like to start, making a bit more money from the arts. So, it's so funny. What a weird society we live in where it's like, a bunch of other jobs, you just go and get a job. If you want to be an artist, you got to basically go on the internet and say, hey, people, please give me money. Please validate my existence with a living wage because there's no universal basic income. And so here I am to say that. I hope you have a lovely week. Mycadelic forever. Bye. Love ya.